We want to know, where's the price of gold and silver headed? Don't we want to know? Let's talk about what we do know, and that is what happened last week. But more importantly, let's turn on our crystal balls. Let's look at some of the big major stories that occurred this week, the highlight stories of the week that will impact the price of gold, that will impact the price of silver. Let's examine these stories. Let's hypothesize, let's put on our thinking caps and see if we can come up with an idea as to where gold and silver are going. I'll lead you down that path. Let's get started right now. Like anyone heading out on a journey, we need to stop where we are right now, take a look around and see what our current situation is. So when we look back over the last week, gold started the week at $1,670 per ounce, ended the week at $1,700 per ounce. It was up 2%. It doesn't feel like that, does it? Yesterday really stunk. Yesterday was one of those days where it was just like, oh my God, here we go again. But when we look at it from a whole week perspective, things weren't that bad. Silver also had a good week, went from about $19 per ounce to about $20 per ounce. That's up about 5%. That's pretty darn good. What about the junior miners? The GDXJ, the Junior Gold Mining Index, it started around $29.50 per share, ending the week around $30 per share, up about 2% for the junior gold mining stocks. Now remember, it ended the week at $30 per share. 6 months ago, it was at $52 per share. To get back to that level where it was just 6 months ago, it would have to go up 75%. There's plenty of runway in front of the junior gold mining companies, the explorers and the developers. What about the silver miners? The silver mining ETF went from about $24 at the beginning of the week to about $25 at the end of the week. It was up nearly 3%. The S&P 500 was up 2% on the week, closing at 3640. So the general market had an okay week. I don't think the NASDAQ fared that well, but I don't have that statistic in front of me to quote to you. The 10-year bond yield, which has a major impact on the value of the dollar and the price of precious metals. It continues its horrible march forward. Remember, just like a year and a half ago, it was like 0.5% for a 10-year bond. It closed the week just under 4%. It was up from 3.8% to 3.9%, continues to go higher, continues to push the dollar higher, continues to beat up and provide a big headwind to our friend gold and silver, although I think they're putting up a pretty decent fight. We're going to talk about that more later in the video because I've got about 8 key points I want to touch on regarding major news stories and major factors that I think are affecting the price of the precious metals, things that happened this week. Bitcoin, our old friend Bitcoin, was basically even on the week, ending at about $19,500 per coin. Okay, now we're going to talk about some major stories, major factors that we need to analyze that will give us some clues. Take out our flashlights as we walk down this path and kind of shine them around and take an assessment of what we see in the path ahead. Before we do that, I just want to say thank you for joining me on this journey here in Ron's Basement. You are always welcome here. Please, if you enjoy my content, you can subscribe right here. I put out new videos every day. You pretty much have a friend for life, and you're always welcome here. You can share the video with your friends, family, your grandma. I don't care. Don't forget to leave a comment. That is important because you are important. Now, let's talk about gold. Gold, gold, gold. It feels like we've been fighting a losing battle, but I want to bring up the point that number one, this past week was not so bad. We were up 1.5%, 2% for the week. So let's take stock of that. And let's realize that gold is fighting a great fight in a macro environment where it is facing so many headwinds, a strong dollar, an obvious hawkish, aggressive monetary policy Fed, high interest rates. And you know, at some point, they can only wind that hawkish spring so tight, and the Fed will have to reverse. The pendulum will swing back the other way. It will be much better days. Hopefully, what we're doing right now is building a strong, strong base, and this applies to silver as well, first cousin of our friend gold, building a strong base from which, when that pendulum does start to swing the other way, it will provide a platform for the price to go much, much higher. Point number 2, we're going to briefly touch on silver. I will be putting out another video on silver this weekend, so be on the lookout for that. But hey, silver had a good week. It was up 6%. Everything I just said about gold holds true for silver, but we even see some other factors involved in the silver market. Inventories at the LBMA and the COMEX, demand pictures from around the world. The outlook, the feeling I get about silver is pretty solid right now. Now, my feelings can be wrong, but oftentimes, you're probably the same way, your gut feelings are right. Point number 3, let's talk about the mining stocks. And if you've owned them like I have over the last year or so, it has been brutal. It has been no fun. We have built character and mental fortitude during this period. But like I said earlier, there's a big runway ahead for the mining stocks. Hopefully, we are at a bottom level. When you look at them from almost any value metric, when you compare things like net tangible assets to market cap, it's unbelievable the value proposition in the mining stocks right now. Many of these companies are still generating some profit, still generating some cash flow, and their valuations are ridiculously low. And point number 4, as we're on this journey of exploring the value in the precious metals and the mining stocks, let's shine our flashlight over to the fact that we only have a sliver, some people say 0.5% or less, of the investable capital in the world invested in the precious metals and the mining stocks. That's just a sliver as people start to wake up. And oh, by the way, there was an article on CBS, mainstream media, about the good idea behind buying gold and silver, when the mainstream, just a sliver of a giant part of the 99.5% comes to join us, it will be exponential returns within the metals and the mining sector. Point number 5, we're going to talk about real estate, right? We all have an interest in that. I'm going to tell you all the good things that came out about real estate this week. Are you ready? Mic drop. There are none. So needless to say, the real estate market is struggling. We won't dive into that any further. There is a plethora of information available regarding the challenges being faced by the residential and commercial real estate market right now. Point number 6, as we're walking down this path, the huge monster, the big story of the week that attacked us, it was jobs, jobs, jobs. On Friday, they put out a report saying the economy created 263,000 jobs. It was only expected to create 250,000 jobs. I think McDonald's and Burger King are now fully staffed. However, 2 things we need to consider about this. New job openings data that came out on Wednesday or Thursday during the week, it showed that new job listings were actually down by 10%. The other key thing to remember is that employment data, the Fed is so backward looking. They were looking at September numbers that they announced yesterday. And employment is a lagging indicator anyway, meaning that if the economy is slowing, it always takes 3 to 6 months for that to show up in jobs numbers. And point number 7, we still have risk of systemic banking failure in Europe. Deutsche Bank and Credit Suisse both are on the ropes. It's hard to explain exactly what's going on over there, but a lot of people think they are in serious, serious trouble. And combined, those 2 companies manage almost 5 times the amount of assets that Lehman Brothers managed when they went belly up during the great financial crisis and caused financial havoc, economic havoc throughout the world. Point number 8, the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and the International Monetary Fund. Now that's a mouthful. All 3 of those big worldwide economic, I don't know what you call them, big authoritative organizations, respected organizations throughout the world. All three of those came out with statements this week calling on the central banks of the world, mostly pointed at the United States Federal Reserve, that they need to quit, knock it off with all this hawkishness, aggressive monetary policy, that it is wreaking havoc throughout the world. Well, we're in bonus territory now. This will be the last thing we shine our flashlights on as we're trying to decide, did we make a smart move buying silver, gold, and the precious metal mining stocks? The last thing we look at is also a big, big monster. It's OPEC. It's the geopolitical turmoil going on in the world. OPEC went against the United States this week, announced a 2 million barrel per day production cut. That is not good for the fight on inflation, just to boil it down for you. That was not good for the price of gold and silver. But at the same time, we have this big split going on in the world, war raging in Ukraine. It only seems to escalate, more and more talk about nuclear. Oh my God, what are they talking about, you know? And on top of that, this morning we got news that that big major bridge that connects Crimea to the land base in the Russian-occupied territories, there was a major explosion. We had the Nord Stream explosion. It's just messy. We're going to leave it at that. Hey, now let's stop and look around. Where have we been? What did we see? Do we think that the market, do we think that the conditions, do we think that when we aggregate all of that information together, that being invested in silver and gold and the mining stocks, is that smart? I'll let you make up your mind for yourself. For me, it feels smart. It doesn't feel 100% certain, but it feels pretty darn certain, because silver and gold and the precious metals have been valuable for thousands and thousands of years. Always and everywhere. My money says they'll continue to hold their value. One thing for sure, we're going to find out. You're always welcome here in Ron's Basement. I appreciate you joining me today. If you want to watch another video, you can do that right here. But until next time, you be well.